Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Breaking News Wednesday edition here on Birds 365 as we are here in the middle of the week. Got a great show planned for everybody this morning. And breaking news is breaking in the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys make a move this morning that we wake up to. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
Yeah, how about them Cowboys?
Right.
Let's get the people excited, waking up. George Pickens is a Cowboy.
What do you think of that? You know, what's your first thoughts on that, George Pickens? He's obviously a good receiver. He's been in Pittsburgh. I think he's not quite done his rookie deal. I think he's 3 years into the league.
1 year. He's got.
So his best season was in 2023, where he had 63 catches for 1,140 yards. Led the NFL with 18.1 yards per reception, which is a big number. But your thoughts on George Pickens landing in Dallas, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, didn't like him in Pittsburgh as the number one receiver. I don't think he's a number one. Love him in Dallas as a number two receiver, where he gets to play off of CD Lamb, and vice versa. You can't pay all that attention to CD Lamb any longer because you do have to respect George Pickens. Tremendous talent. I just don't think he's a well-rounded receiver, but he's a big play receiver, as you mentioned, by those yards per catch. He can beat anybody deep. Great downfield threat, and I think a good fit, smart move for the Cowboys who need that complement to CD Lamb. Everybody knew where football was going last year on Dallas because they didn't have those complementary receivers, and now they do. So I think they got better. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, 100% got better. George Pickens comes over. Obviously, Pittsburgh acquired DK Metcalf this offseason, so they've changed direction on George Pickens and went the DK Metcalf route. It is interesting, John. I know the player does come with a little bit of headaches. He's one of those, loud players and stuff like that. I don't know if that has anything.
Another loud receiver. We were talking about it yesterday. Yeah, they all want the football.
Yeah,
they all do.
Pickens is a different beast, though. Whenever I think of George Pickens, I still to this day think of the video on draft night. I'm not sure if you remember that video of him standing at the TV with his arms back and he's staring at the TV. I just think that is the funniest video. But George Pickens in Dallas, so it is an interesting combination with him and CD Lamb. CD, who lines up in the slot a lot. But look, another good weapon for Dak Prescott, no doubt about it. I think you hit the nail on the head where you certainly can't just focus on CD anymore like you could in Dallas in the past.
Yeah, and big down the field threat, 6'3", over 6'3", just big body, 50-50 ball. You can run those go routes. You can beat people. You can run past people. What he doesn't do well is the short and intermediate stuff, and that's what CD does. CD does everything well, but I think it's a nice compliment, nice fit. And it's going to be tough to deal with, and the pressure's off, Pittsburgh, that Pittsburgh offense. And part of it was they're relying on George Pickens to be a number one receiver. So I think the role plays a big part of it. Love him as a number two. Don't like him at all as a number one. And now he's in a situation where you can really, really take advantage of what he does well if you do it smartly. So, the Cowboys clearly got better with this trade. And we'll see. Obviously, they were going to be much improved as long as Dak Prescott is healthy, whether people like him or not. And obviously, most people in Philadelphia don't like him. He's a hell of a lot better than Cooper Rush. So, you can talk about the disappointments in the playoffs, but they were in the playoffs. And guess what? They're a threat to be in the playoffs again. And all of a sudden, the NFC East is a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
With Washington on the rise, Dallas back on the rise, and New York Giants, I think, are still a ways away, but even they are making some decent decisions now. So it gets tougher when you're the Super Bowl champions. Everybody's gunning for you. Eagles know that. They've been through it before. Hopefully they handle it better this time around. But I was just yesterday I was writing, now that talent acquisition season, it isn't over, as the Cowboys just proved. Howie always says it. But the vast majority of it is done after the draft. And I looked at the defense, and man, you got to really talk yourself into some shit to think the Eagles are going to be
100%.
even close to where they were defensively last year,
100%.
which was the best in football. You got to really, really talk yourself into some stuff. And that's a little bit more difficult for me than most, I think. And I'm having a tough time talking myself into some stuff.
Oh, I understand that completely. I mean, obviously fans are going to take the optimistic approach, but you are right. You are talking yourself into a lot of things. There's a lot of hope, John, on this defense. And now with the Cowboys getting better, obviously the Commanders have done what they've done coming off their season last year. The whole NFC East, John, is on the rise, and this is why we talk. When you have the opportunity to pounce, you got to pounce because it doesn't last forever. So the whole NFC East will be more competitive. Here is the terms of the deal for those interested. The Cowboys traded a 2026 third-round pick and a 2027 fifth to the Steelers in exchange for George Pickens and a 2027 sixth. So a next year third, and then you have a pick swap in 2027 with a fifth and a sixth rounder. So not crazy compensation, I don't think, for Dallas. Now, obviously, they're probably going to have to give him a contract. Maybe knowing Jerry, he won't do it right now. But
yeah, that's the reason, obviously, that I think everybody's always blown away by compensation, with proven players to a certain degree. And that's tied to the contract. And even though he's under a cost-effective deal right now, he's going to want an extension. And as you point out with the Cowboys, they're going to wait, which is not necessarily the best thing to do, but that's what they do.
Where do you think this wide receiver core now ranks in the NFC? I still got AJ Devontae out at number 1, but I think it's a clear NFC. I think it's a clear Cowboy number 2. Now, I'm a bigger CeeDee Lamb fan than most Eagles fans. I've had Eagles fans tell me they think Devontae Smith is better than CeeDee Lamb. I happen to think CeeDee Lamb is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. And on certain days, he's one of the best in the league. So I believe CeeDee Lamb is a very good player. With George Pickens, I think that puts them firmly in number 2 ahead of the Commanders. What do you think, Johnny Mac?
In the NFC East, yeah. You mean the NFC as a whole?
NFC East, but you could go NFC if you want to talk about some other teams.
I'd have to look at everybody. I don't, I'm doing it, trying to think about it on the top of my head.
I mean, you got the Lions, you got the Rams now with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders with Terry McLaurin, and who did they add next to Terry?
Deebo
Samuel. The Giants obviously are a little bit lesser.
They're in the conversation. There's they're in the conversation. I do like. Boy, I think Puka Nacua is underrated.
Me too.
I really think he's underrated. Oh, Minnesota. Minnesota's better.
Jefferson and Addison, right?
Yeah. But if everything goes well, they're going to be near the top. They're going to be near the top with those two.
Objectively, a pretty good move here for the Dallas Cowboys. They get better. They send a third-round pick. I saw someone say, "Geez, they sent a premium pick." Listen, if you're the Cowboys, I'm not clutching onto that third-round pick like it's more important than getting a big play weapon for Dak Prescott, who's returning, and now lining him up next to one of the best receivers in football in CeeDee Lamb. John, how does this change the dynamic defensively versus the Cowboys specifically? I do think it's they're going to be a lot tougher to cover. It's one thing to have CeeDee Lamb out there and you can bracket him and he plays in the slot a lot. All right, now you got George Pickens, who can, as you mentioned, is really good in the deep threat, really can open up and extend the field. What do you think defensively for the Eagles? What's it look like defending this Cowboys offense? It's going to be a pretty good offense.
Yeah, they Nick Sirianni talks about spacing a lot and the ability to create space for your, playmakers. In this case, it would be CeeDee Lamb. And this makes it easier to create space because you have to respect the downfield abilities of George Pickens. They also have a huge manufactured touch guy and Kevontae Turpin, who's really difficult to deal with from a standpoint of horizontal sort of spacing. He's always going to scare people because of his ability in space. They also got Paris Campbell. I'm joking with that. I love Paris, but Paris is down there. So, it's a good fit. And I like it better. Like for the people, I mean, this guy's been in the league for 3 years. He had 800 yards as a rookie receiver, which is pretty good. 1,100 in his second season last year. He missed a couple games and he was at 900, so he's on pace. And remember, that's 900 in a crappy offense where he's the number one guy, which works in both ways because you get more volume than you potentially would where you're not the number one guy. But Pittsburgh was not a great passing team. I think we all understand that. If you remember when they came in here, he was like the only threat. The only thing you had to worry about.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, it ain't like that. So I think the situation will help them. Now, we have to see what the Cowboys do with the running game. They need to find something. I've always liked, they signed Javonte Williams. I've always liked him. I always thought he had a chance to be a good player, but it hasn't.
They did draft that Jaden Blue, too. Now, he's a rookie. I mean, I don't know what he's going to
that's a day 3 rookie.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, we got into that because he can run by people. Yeah, I wouldn't be worried about Jaden Blue. They signed Miles Sanders as well.
Miles Sanders they got, yep.
So I'm not in love with their backfield situation, and they probably still need to add something there. And, it's going to be difficult to do at this point. So you sort of have to cross your fingers with Javonte Williams. So I don't like that, but they're much better. And they've started rebuilding the offensive line. Smith's a good player. Tyler Smith. Cooper Beebe looks like he's going to be a good center. Tyler Booker I like, even though I think they drafted him a little bit too high. Terrence Steele's okay. Tyler Guyton is getting better. So they're getting better on the offensive line. And then defensively, obviously, you're talking about Mike and company. So they have some real talent. I don't know where Overshawn is health-wise because he had a significant...
He's a good player, though, when he was healthy.
Yeah, real good player.
Yeah, I liked him, too.
And then you talk about their corners. Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, if they ever get healthy together, that's and they drafted that kid from East Carolina who a lot of people like. Probably would have been a potential first round pick if he didn't.
Shavon Revel. Yeah, Shavon Revel. That kid can play. Yep.
And they have good safeties, veteran safeties. So, yeah, that don't overlook the cat. I know people.
No, I've been saying since early offseason, I think the Cowboys are going to jump the Commanders and get back to second in the NFC East this year. I do still think the Eagles have the best roster. And if they stay healthy and everything goes to plan this year, I think they should win the NFC East. But, John, in your estimation, how much has the gap closed from the Eagles to the Commanders and the Cowboys now, who you just laid out their roster? Shoot, it's not that bad. I mean, people talk about the Cowboys like they're, the Panthers, and they're not. They're not at all. And they're getting Dak Prescott back. How much is the gap closed?
Yeah. Well, right
the
there, you're getting
the NFC East.
You're getting a top-tier quarterback back. So right there, I mean, that's going to make you much better. But, yeah, I always say the Cowboys' problems aren't personnel because Will McClay is one of the best in the business. The problems are when Jerry sticks his nose into things, which is, probably going to derail. So you still have that card. Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones.
What are the chances by week 8 Pickens is crying about a new contract and Parsons? I mean, they got to pay Parsons and Pickens now. That part of it will always be entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's going to pay Micah Parsons. I don't know when. He's going to pay the Jerry Jones tax, but he's going to pay him.
Yeah, he's going to pay him. You're right.
He always does. So, and I tell you what the Eagles, all I can tell you is what the Eagles think of Micah Parsons, and they're pretty stinking impressed. So you start with that player, pretty good foundational standpoint.
No doubt. Gap closed, though? Big time? Where do you think the Cowboys?
Yeah, well, I think, the Cowboys were terrible last season, but they were terrible because their quarterback was out for a good period of time.
Yeah, and that I do get a kick out of Eagles fans who tell me all the time, oh, why? Guys, if we lost Jalen Hurts for more than half the season and our record wasn't good, what would you say as to why we had a bad season? I mean, they lost their starting quarterback. You might hate Dak Prescott, but they did
I
win
know,
3
it's
straight years of
absurd.
12 games. I mean, they're going to be better with Dak Prescott back in the lineup. Now they add George Pickens. I think it's interesting. I mean, I had the Cowboys getting second in the NFC East this year. A lot of people called me crazy for that one. I think this is solidifies that there's a much better chance of that happening with George Pickens and CD Lamb now in Dallas. It's going to be interesting, John.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some holes. Like I said, the backfield. We'll see how the offensive line develops. And, those corners got to stay healthy at the same time. They never do.
Right.
So you have to see that. But yeah, they have talent. It wouldn't surprise me if they jumped to Washington. I'd still put Washington ahead of them. But yeah, I mean, the Eagles have come back to the pack a little bit as well. That's what happens, attrition. But like I said, I was doing the defense and going every spot they lost, upgrade or downgrade. Boy, you got to be really optimistic to come up with one upgrade, at least short term.
Yeah.
You talk about long term,
Right.
2-3 years down the road. Like at some point, you got to move on from Darius Slay. Best, the old adage, better to give up on a player a year early than a year late. I don't have any problem with that thinking, but to assume that Caleb Ringo or Dory Jackson are going to play like Darius Slay did last year in the short term, you got to be really optimistic to come up with that scenario. So even some of the smart decisions, if you consider CJ, I saw one story, and I'm not going to rip. Yeah, I saw Andrew Makuba will seamlessly replace CJ. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? What world did CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's one of the biggest playmakers in this league when he's healthy, and yeah, he's a pain in the ass, and that obviously factors into it. High maintenance guy in Makuba won't be high maintenance, and maybe he turns into that 3 years down the road. But remember, it took CJ till his 4th year. The assumption that these guys are going to just step in and perform at that level, boy, you're drinking some optimism tea there.
It's lofty. There's no doubt about it. It's lofty. I will say this about George Pickens to the Cowboys. All right. I like it from a player perspective. I do think about the volatility there where you got a lot of divas in that locker room. George Pickens is obviously known for some of that attitude. I think that's part of what makes him a good receiver.
AJ's
not a diva. Oh, come on. I mean, are you kidding me? If we had George Pickens on this offense last year who wasn't getting the ball, are you kidding me? He'd have been slamming his helmet on the sideline every third play. A.J. Brown is not a diva compared to George Pickens. But
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying
I know
diva people. I don't have any problem with a wide receiver who wants the football. I have a problem with a wide receiver who doesn't want the football.
Yeah, right. Why? Do you stink? Well, I just wonder about the volatility. Is that eventually going to come to a head? You got new people, players that want contracts there. Going to be very interesting to see what happens with the NFC East this year. The Dallas Cowboys, all right, got a player. Now they've added Kenneth Murray, Kyer Elam, and George Pickens this offseason. So obviously plus their NFL draft, where I think they had a good draft. They got Ezeraku, they got Tyler Booker. And then, as John mentioned, they got Shavon Revel from East Carolina, another great corner. So they're doing good things. I mean, they've done good things. Let's see what they're doing.
Paris Campbell.
There you go. Paris Campbell. Miles Sanders. They've done good things. So it's going to be a very interesting season in the NFC East. I see our main man, Mike Gill, in the green room. We're going to talk to Mike Gill in just a second here from 97.3 ESPN. You can give him a follow on X and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. He joins us right now here on Birds 365. Mike, how you doing on this Wednesday morning? Some breaking news, brother. The Cowboys got better today.
Yeah, and I actually was talking about this yesterday on my show because we were looking at the division odds. They're plus 800 to win the NFC East. We all know the same team hasn't won the division in over 20 years. I think it's exactly 21, going on 21 years now. Dallas was 7-10 last year, and I think in large part they were decimated by injuries. Is that a team that everyone just laughs at because they're the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Cowboys thing? Are they secretly better than everybody locally gives them credit for? If that team is mildly healthy last year, are they 10-7 or 7-10? Now they're adding some pieces. They haven't done a great job in free agency. They didn't make a splashy move, but I definitely am intrigued. Now, putting Pickens into Dallas, that just screams some sort of off the field drama dripping with it coming to that team soon. But he's a player, and if they're healthy, how much different is that team last year that won only 7 games than the team? They lost their quarterback.